All right, so this one is all about variation. The first is I can describe the process and purpose of synapsis. Synapsis occurs in prophase 1, and it is simply where for each chromosome you have a duplicated chromosome. So let's say this is chromosome number 1 from dad. It is going to pair up with chromosome number 1 for mom. And so that pairing up and forming what we call a tetrad is synapsis. And it's called a tetrad because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 chromatids, and tetra means 4. And so that pairing up during prophase 1 is synapsis. And the purpose is so that it would line up okay in metaphase 1 to be divided so that your cells get the chromosomes that they need. The process and purpose of crossing over, a lot of times when this happens, what actually happens is they get all tangled up. It's like they're doing a dance and they get all tangled up. And so you see dad's chromosome and mom's chromosome, and the stress of that tangle can sometimes break those little pieces down here off. And when they reattach to the wrong chromosome. And so what you end up with is mom's chromosome that looks like that, and dad's chromosome that looks like that. So you've got dad's chromosome, 2 copies. So this one's all dad. This one is mostly dad and a little bit of mom. This one is all mom, mostly mom, and a little bit of dad. This is how we think we got new combinations of genes, and this is not a true example. I'm just giving you an example that you might understand. Let's say that dad had brown hair and brown-eyed genes, okay? And so we have brown hair, let's do an H for hair, brown eyes, and brown eyes. And let's say that mom has blonde hair, so we'll do BL for that, and blue eyes. Okay, well, what happens when they switch, what we saw was brown and brown. So you always saw brown hair and brown eyes together. But somewhere along the way, due to crossing over, we started to see brown hair now with blue eyes. And so that's how some new combinations could have potentially come across or arisen through crossing over. Don't think that's the reason. So this is the process of it. The purpose is not, I don't know that it's ever on purpose, but the benefit of it is that it increases genetic variation. And so that, of course, increases survivability of a species. All right, the next one is I can explain why meiosis is called reductive division. Well, when we start with meiosis, we start with one cell that's diploid. When we go through meiosis 1, we're going to end up with 2 cells that are haploid. When we go through meiosis 2, and these are going to be duplicated chromosomes, when we go through meiosis 2, those duplicated chromosomes are going to split into their individual chromosomes, and it's going to stay haploid. So it's called reductive division because we're reducing that chromosome number from diploid to haploid. So for us, that would be from 46 to 23. I can explain how genetic variation is introduced in meiosis. One place is crossing over. That's a huge place. The other is independent assortment. And so what that looks like is when the chromosomes line up they pair up in prophase 1 and then they line up in metaphase 1. Let's say this is chromosome number 1, chromosome number 2. Now we would have 23 of these, 23 of these pairs. I'm not drawing all 23. But when they pair up and line up in prophase and metaphase 1, they can do this independently of each other. In other words, just because the dad chromosome's on the left for pair number 1 doesn't mean it has to be on the left for pair number 2. In some cells, it might be. So what you're going to end up with when this gets down to the 4 cells at the end is you're going to have they're going to end up like this. So you're going to see half of your sperm will have dad 1 and dad 2, and half of your sperm will have mom 1 and mom 2. But they also could have paired up like this. Okay, and what that's going to look like when they form the 4 eggs or the 4 sperm is you're going to have a dad 1 and a mom 2, and a mom 1 and a dad 2. And so because these carry different traits, depending on, this is going to give you some different variety in your sperm and eggs. And then, of course, fertilization. So the next one says, I can explain how genetic variation is introduced in fertilization. The fact that fertilization is random tells us that if this sperm got to the egg first, that's going to create a different baby than if this sperm got to the egg first. And so the fact that it's completely random, which sperm and which egg, or maybe it's this egg that matures this month versus this one. And so depending on which egg is ready and which sperm gets there first, you have all these different, I want to say like 64 trillion different possibilities of kids that you could have. So there's a lot of randomness to fertilization, and that increases genetic variation. I can define the independent assortment of chromosomes. We just did that. I can model the independent assortment of chromosomes. I just did that too, so you should be able to do that. And then I can explain the benefit of genetic variation in a species. I touched on this a little bit in the sexual and asexual reproduction video. But basically, with asexual reproduction, all kids are the same. So you have a parent, it goes through mitosis, and it produces two identical children. Well, let's say that humans could do asexual reproduction. We can't, but let's just say we could. And so all humans were tall and skinny with not a lot of hair. Great as long as it's warm. But then we go into an ice age, and we can't adapt. It's cold. We don't have hair. We don't have fat. We can't stay warm. And the whole human species dies out. Okay, that's scenario 1. Scenario 2, because we do sexual reproduction, everybody's different. So if you look around at people around you, although there's probably not a lot of people around you right now, but think about all the people you've seen in the last year or so, they are all different. So if we did go into an ice age, yep, some people might not survive because their body can't handle the cold. But because we have so much variety, some would survive. And so even though not every human would survive, there are humans that would, and that would keep the species alive. And so that's what we want as a species, is we want to keep our species alive, even if not every human is able to survive. And so that is the benefit of genetic variation. It allows you to be more flexible with changing environments, because no matter how the environment changes, because everybody's different, surely somebody can survive that change. And so that allows the species to stay alive. So I hope that helps. If you've got questions, let me know.